Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening from wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today for day 4 of the Virtual Island Summit. My name is Linda Carty, and I am Island Innovations Digital Communications Manager. For those joining us for the first time, Island Innovation is a sustainable development consultancy primarily focused on islands. Our services include island development strategies, strategic communications, government affairs, impact program design, and many more. And we're trusted by clients around the world. And if you're interested in learning more about island innovation, my colleagues will share the information in the chat. So for today's session, I'm very happy because I'm presenting not only the first session of the day, but a session that is directly linked to where I'm from and where I'm currently based, St. Martin. We're going to talk about preserving St. Martin's heritage and confronting overdevelopment and climate change through community-led solutions. And we're going to talk about this topic with speaker Solange Ludmila Duncan, a culture and heritage activist and a former member of the Parliament of St. Martin, and our moderator today, Laurie Brinklow, the chair at the Institute of Island Studies at the University of Prince Edward Island in Canada. But before we begin, you should see a poll appear on your screen. Please let us know more about yourself and also continue to introduce yourself in the chat. We're very happy to know from where you're joining from around the world. Also, please make sure to use the Q&A function for any questions you may have for the panelists, and we will do our best to make sure that we can address as many questions as possible. So let me see the results of the poll, if it appears. I can already see in the chat that we have people from Trinidad and Tobago, from Portugal, from Spain also, Mauritius, Nepal, St. Kitts and Nevis. So from the poll, we can also see that a lot of people are joining from Europe, North America, and the Caribbean. And the main sectors are the private sector, academia, NGO. And thank you very much for filling out this poll. So I will now let the session start. Mrs. Lauren Brinkle, you can come up on camera, please. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Greetings from Prince Edward Island, Canada. Absolutely delighted to be here with you all. So many great islands represented, even New York City. I know that Manhattan is an island, very large, densely populated island, joined by many bridges, but that's what island studies is all about, is looking at all different kinds of islands. So I'm really happy to be here and serving as moderator for this session. I have a special place in my heart for this place of St. Martin. We were supposed to be there actually in 2017 when Hurricane Irma decided to make its appearance. And so we had to quickly pivot and have a conference in oh dear, I'm just losing my spot. There, I found it. Then we ended up pivoting and having a conference in Aruba instead. But Ludmila got to come to that conference, and I didn't see her presentation, but I remembered her name from the program. So I'll just do a quick introduction that. Just to add to what Linda said, as she is a former member of Parliament. I looked at her LinkedIn profile where it says Small Island Enthusiast, a culture and heritage activist, and a seeker of truth. I just love that. And I love the fact that we're talking to somebody who is open to saying that they are a seeker of truth. She, as was mentioned, was a member of Parliament from 2000 to 2024, and now runs her own consultancy focused on research, policy, and project management. She's one of the founders of the St. Maarten Archives and Heritage Platform and is an advocate for the preservation and promotion of heritage, culture, and development of the creative economy on St. Maarten. So I'd like to invite Ludmila to turn on her camera, and we will begin our little fireside chat.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you for having me.
There you are. So to start with, I'm just, you know, I know that the work that you're doing stemmed from your personality. You know, you were an MP during that time for 4 years, and now you've gotten out of it and you have decided to turn your attention to being on the other side. Can you just talk about that for a little bit and your motivations for doing that?
Sure. So I've always been service oriented, and I was one of those that left to go to Wida College. I lived in the United States, I lived in the Virgin Islands, I lived in the Netherlands, but always thought of myself as a small island girl, and I wanted to come back and contribute. And so I came back. I was a policy advisor, but also realize the power of politics, especially in our small society. So joined the political arena, became a member of parliament, and served proudly. But politics is challenging. It's very challenging. And for me, I felt a little disconnected to community work, I guess. And so I said, you know what? After 4 years of service, I want to actually kind of come down back to the ground. I say it like that, and be an activist on the ground. As I was before. So yeah, I had a stint in the political arena. I enjoyed it, but I am looking forward to working more actively on the ground and supporting our politicians, but in a different way.
That's so cool. I love when people make changes, life changes that courageously for those kinds of reasons. Today we're talking about overdevelopment in St. Maarten. And can you tell us what it was like before climate change and overdevelopment took hold?
Yeah, so I have to go back to the very beginning, of course, also too, as a history enthusiast. St. Maarten is extremely unique. There's two countries, one island, we're one people, but we do have two citizenships. So in the northern side, that's the French side, residents have French citizenship, and in the south, Dutch citizenship, but English is our mother tongue. Now, if we go back to the very beginning, and St. Maarten is a very hilly island, beautiful hills, beaches, salt ponds, fresh ponds as well. I have to talk about the impact of colonialism on overdevelopment. So the Dutch, and I'm going to focus, of course, on the Dutch side because that is where I'm from. The Dutch landed on the island very early on and discovered the Great Salt Pond and said, hey, this is a significant post for us to establish a colony. They built a fort, and salt was actually harvested and sent to the Americas, of course, through the trafficking and the enslavement of Africans. So St. Maarten was known, of course, for being heavily populated with African persons who were enslaved. And exactly 161 years ago, slavery was abolished on the Dutch side. The French abolished slavery 15 years beforehand. Now, the issue with this is that once slavery was abolished, the people of St. Maarten, my ancestors, were left in extreme poverty. The salt industry closed down, the plantation period ended as well, and a great migration began. And so St. Martiners had to leave the island. The economic situation was very dire. And so they left to the United States, they migrated to the Dominican Republic, and then later on to our sister islands of Curacao and Aruba, where there were oil refineries. So this lack of a focus on development of the country sort of forced our people to leave. And there was also a lack of educational institutions, a lack of attention overall. And I believe then that once the island government was formed in the 50s, there was a sort of desperation for new avenues of income and financing for our people. And we turned to tourism. So with that came the return of many St. Martiners from the other islands to the island to work in the tourist industry. And once that began to take off, then that was the beginning of what I call St. Martin capitalism. You know, we looked at tourism as a savior for our people, and that's really where overdevelopment sort of was created, or it began, and it just keep developing, keep developing, keep developing. And yeah, here we are today.
Wow. And so how many tourists, like 2 to 1, 4 to 1 population in a year would you see when you're talking about that kind of overdevelopment and over tourism?
That is a good question because I don't have the numbers.
Yeah.
On the Dutch side, we have a large cruise port. So
Mhm.
cruise tourism is also very popular. We have our international airport as well. On the French side, there is a small airport, but we are also a hub, which has formed some of our identity as well. So not only have we said, you know, tourists come to our island, but use our airport to get to the smaller islands, Anguilla, St. Bart's. And so there's so many people that come to the country and pass through the country that yeah, it's had quite an impact on not only our economy but the environment as well.
And then there's climate change. How does that factor into all of this?
So, like our neighbors in the Eastern Caribbean, we are on the front lines of climate change. You know, 7 years ago, you mentioned it earlier, 7 years ago, Hurricane Irma devastated St. Martin, also a number of other islands in the Caribbean. Before that, we've had a number of hurricanes. In 1995, Hurricane Lewis was another extremely devastated hurricane that has, you know, it has us in a constant state of, I don't want to say fear, but we have to be constantly ready for these huge storms that creates so much destruction. Of course, it creates resilience, but it really has had a detrimental impact on our heritage because oftentimes we don't have the funding and the financing to rebuild and to renovate and to, you know, really conserve.
So thinking about, how do people respond then, the citizens to this overdevelopment? And you mentioned, that constant state of unease about the climate. How do you respond and where do you feel that you can do something about it?
So I'm really proud of the nonprofit sector on St. Martin. We have so many nonprofit organizations that do really, really great work. You know, it's large, it's diverse, and it's active. And so I believe that many of the changes in our country are led and managed by the people, you know, and government is sort of a facilitator, but the people are really leading this change. And since 2020, you know, there's been a feeling of activism, more so in the air, in my opinion. We are seeing persons using social media to
Mhm.
not only complain, but to demand accountability, you know, to voice their concerns about the state of affairs. So, you know, if you visited St. Martin, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, and you visited it today, you would see loads of construction, especially in the hills. And the issue with that is that in the past, government has sort of equated construction and development with progress. And the people are saying, no, this is unsustainable development. And it's actually creating a bigger burden for us. We are right now, and I'm being honest about our situation, we are in multiple crises at the moment. We have an energy crisis. Um, We have an issue with infrastructure. There is a lot of traffic on the island. And we're small, we're 37 square miles, but there's so much people here. You know, we are one of the most densely populated countries in the Caribbean, and for our size, it's amazing. But the people have been saying, you know, listen, enough is enough. We've kind of allowed you to set a vision, but it's been unsustainable. And so using social media, taking charge, we see communities are, petitioning government. And when I was in Parliament, I was chair of the Petitions Committee, and I really tried to encourage the public to use their constitutional right to petition, to send letters, to gather signatures, and let government know that you're not happy with what is happening, and that your voice matters. And we've seen a difference in the amount of petitions that are happening, especially as it concerns the overdevelopment in some of our communities.
So what has been then the response from government to all of this, activism?
So what I can say is, and we are known for political instability. So we've had 2 elections in the last 6 months, which has put a strain on our people. However, the election results have been very clear. So the opposition parties have now become the governing parties. And so I will talk about them. In my opinion, they have really sort of done a 180 in their response to criticism online. Like our current Minister of Infrastructure, has responded personally to Facebook messages and posts about landslides, going personally and physically to families to discuss their issues. We've seen this new government as well take a more participatory approach. Let's say the Minister of Tourism, for example, has really talked about her commitment to increasing agriculture on St. Maarten and working with farmers to also promote food security. So this government has really given me some hope about really reacting favorably to not only criticism, but to including the people as well, as they create new policies in a better direction.
Do you think that you could have done all of this trying to move the needle without social media? What's the role that
Ooh,
social media has played?
no. In small communities, yeah, no, the answer is simply in small communities, and especially on St. Maarten, a lot of our people, I think it's like maybe 70%, I saw the last numbers of our people are on Facebook. And so social media plays such a huge, huge role for advocacy and also accountability. I think it's a great tool. It does mean, though, that government needs to increase its policies concerning transparency, because the people are not going to accept anymore not knowing about what is happening. So social media has played a great role to me, and it's going to continue to play a bigger role in our society moving forward.
Lovely. So we have a question from the question and answer asking about what specific challenges are members of the islands community addressing and what innovations are they implementing to ensure total transparency? Obviously, using social media to try and get at that transparency, but what are some of the more specific challenges?
So specifically, one issue as it concerns, let's say, development in particular. So we have outdated legislation that is an issue, and when developments are happening, there is a mechanism for the public, especially in the community, to object to the development. However, the use of a gazette that actually isn't published in such a way that it's easily accessible is one thing that the community has brought up, that using a national gazette or using social media in such a way that persons can object within time would be one sort of innovation. So sort of changing the way in which a national gazette is used in order for persons to object to developments in their community. Because what we've seen is that objections come too late. So a high-rise building is going to be built next to, a church, and by the time the community finds out about it, it's too late because they haven't been able to access the Gazette. So that is one thing that has been asked to be changed, and the current government and the Minister of Infrastructure has said he's going to work on ensuring that that is done as well.
Wow. No, it's really interesting finding the way that government works and then zeroing in on how you can make a difference to change it. I'm curious, you've got a whole raft of people from around the world here. What can we be doing in other places that might support you in your work?
So I think that we have already started building partnerships in the region. And when I say we, I mean not only the government, but community groups like the Heritage Platform. We are connected within the region. But I think there needs to be more connection and more partnerships being built, because we have very limited expertise, technical expertise, and capacity. So I think reaching out to persons on the island and within government or within the community to sort of make proposals, sharing best practices are really, really important as well. Because we're not living in a bubble, but I think we are sometimes too disconnected, especially from policy experts around the world that may have a better experience. We have a unique situation here, but it's not too unique. I've read about, let's say, small towns in Brazil that also had issues with overdevelopment, and the community and government working together to turn things around. So for me, it's really about creating more partnerships across the world and being on forums like this one, where hopefully I can connect with persons who may be able to help, whether it's with heritage conservation or environmental protection, and making those linkages.
That's brilliant. And I really commend the work of Island Innovation in doing this and bringing all of these people together, and the conversations that they start. Question from the Q&A, and I love this: small islands are the least responsible for climate change, yet are the most affected. And it's so true. And yet, so these are the kinds of things that we're able to learn from one another, hopefully, and have a voice when we're together. But this person asks, I was in St. Maarten during recent power outages, and I'm curious as to why there is not more solar energy throughout the Caribbean as well.
Yeah, that is, like I said, we are in a number of different crises right now. And, honestly, it is a matter of, again, the government focusing on the needs of the country and being more innovative and moving away from, of course, fossil fuels. The political instability, some would say, is a reason why we don't see more progress and more sustainable development. But I also think it's about it's also about who, right? Who has been in positions of power. And that's why I say, no, I am hopeful with this new government, who has shown that, especially this new Minister of Infrastructure, that there is a need to focus on not only sustainable development, but also renewable energy. So the party is really focused on that. And we should see changes moving forward. So it's really about the politicians that have been in power in the past. But now I think we'll see a difference, definitely.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're coming close to the end. Is there anything else that you would like to say to finish up this conversation?
No, I just want to thank Island Innovation, and thank you for the opportunity. And I really hope that I think this is the beginning for St. Martin of at least a new path forward. You know, it's been really tough over the last few years because of political instability, but also because of the challenges that come out of climate change. But I see a shift happening, and I believe that not only is the government more open, but also our community groups are more open to partnering. So I asked if anyone has any proposals or would like to assist to reach out to me or to anyone else that you know on the island, because I think there's a new spirit of activism, but also the need for sustainable development moving forward. So I'm excited, and I hope that we can connect with others who might be able to help us moving forward.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. As one person asked in the chat, the role of the university as well. Do you see there being a role for the university to be part of this?
Oh, yes. Our university, the University of St. Martin, has made a lot of efforts over the last few years to not only be an advocate for sustainable development, but also to connect not only persons and groups on the islands, but also on the other islands as well, being not only a hub for knowledge, but also a safe space to have discussions on how like everyone is in it together. We're all in this together on the island, government, nonprofit sector, even the private sector as well, which sometimes might be a little disconnected. So I feel like the university has done a wonderful job and will continue to do a great job working ahead to bringing everyone in a space together to discuss our issues.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I just feel really pleased and proud and hopeful that in bringing all of these organizations and groups and islands together, that we can help either islands, and in return, those stories, those lessons that we can adapt from one another, and that's the richness of this whole big island family that we are part of. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and I can hardly wait to get to St. Martin. I think it's going to happen, and I think that we're probably going to cross paths on another island really soon. I look forward to that too. Thank you, Ludmila.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you, Island Innovation, and everyone who tuned in. Appreciate it.
Thanks. I turn it back to Linda now.
Thank you. Many thanks to Ludmila and Laurie for this great and insightful session. And I'm very happy you all got to know more about our beautiful island of St. Martin. For all of you who might have missed it, we announced this week during the opening session that Island Innovation is partnering with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, which is an island very near from St. Martin, to host the Global Sustainable Islands Summit in 2025. So after this year's experience in Prince Edward Island, now the Caribbean is taking the spotlight. And the summit will be held from May 27 to 29, and we will be discussing solutions and advancements in sustainable energy. So please note that all attendees of the Virtual Island Summit can get an additional discount on the early bird tickets using a coupon that you receive in your emails, or that my colleagues will share in the chat, which is coupon VIS 2024. And now, in less than 2 hours, we'll have our next session on island schools, leading global innovation. It's a session sponsored by the Edge Foundation, and I'm really looking forward to this session also, so please join us. You will receive the Zoom link in emails, or you can also check the website agenda for the link. We thank you all again for being here with us, and we hope to see you in our next session. Have a nice day or evening.